if I could only give one tip for bass fishing that applies to every angler, it would be to fish this and not this. Cast your lures at these areas and not these areas. Because bass, for the most part, live here and not here. If you didn't catch that from the drone shots, I've noticed one main constant when it comes to bass fishing that applies to every angler, no matter the time of the year, no matter where you fish, bass boat, kayak, or bank. And in today's video, we're gonna talk about exactly what that is. My name's Tyler, and let's talk about it.
Another giant, another giant. Look at that, y'all.
I can't believe what I just caught.
Yes!
Well, what's going on, folks? Welcome back to TRF. Today's episode is brought to you by the Bass Forecast mobile app. More on them and what they do later on in the video. In the bodies of water that we fish, not every area, not every location holds an even amount of bass. Let's say per square foot, per square acre, however you want to measure it, not every place holds the same amount of bass. And I had to learn that early on in my fishing life. Take, for example, this relatively featureless neighborhood pond that I fish, and also the giant, huge Lake St. Clair. Both of these bodies of water, despite having many places to cast your lure, do not have the same amount of bass in each location. At the pond that I fish, I have noticed that these few areas right here are most of the time where I find success. And on Lake St. Clair, even though there are hundreds of miles of fishable water, oftentimes if you are just 50 to 100 feet away from where another boat is fishing, they can be having the time of their life and you can be catching nothing. So location is really crucial. And I say all that to say that as you advance in your bass fishing skills, knowledge, and understanding, you're gonna come to know what areas on your body of water are better to fish than others. But some of you guys may be struggling with where to fish or what time to fish or what lures to throw. And of course, this channel is all about that. But I wanna give you guys a quick head start, a huge tip when it comes to selecting location and the type of structure to fish under the water. And so in this video, I want to talk about why it is always worth your time to fish rocks.
Rocks. Mostly rocks.
You gonna keep telling me rocks?
If you couldn't tell from the drone shots to begin this video, all the areas that I said were good to fish from had some kind of rock either near the water or in the water, and the areas that I said were bad to fish from had no rock. Now, what I'm not saying is this, that the presence of rocks always equals catching bass, and having no rocks always equals catching no bass. That's not necessarily the case. But I have fished in hundreds of ponds and lakes and bodies of water across the world at this point, and I just noticed one constant, and that is that if you've got rocks, it's better to fish them as opposed to fish something else. On a recent day fishing in my Bonafide RVR kayak, I set out to fish way up a river in the back of a main lake creek. But sadly, by the time I got up there, I realized the water level in the fall was much too low, and I actually couldn't even access the creek at all. It's dry. It's dry, isn't it? Of course, I was disappointed that I couldn't fish the area I wanted to fish, but I was resolved to at least catch some fish before calling it a day. So I decided to beeline it for a point that I saw on my way back to the creek. And I said, you know what? That area looks good. And I made my first cast. No way. Wow. There's one, heck yeah. On the dang bank. I'm talking like on the bank. Wow. Interesting. In that one fish, despite being the only one I actually caught fishing the entire rest of the retaining wall point, gave me enough confidence to want to try that on another point on my way back to the boat ramp. Oh, goodness, there's one. Good, hello. Gosh, dang, son. Was not expecting that. Come on now. Yeah. Gonna flip you in. Yes, sir. Wow. Okay. I had zero confidence this would work, but it is. Crazy. Wow. So at this point, I was 2 for 2 on selecting spots to fish and actually finding success and catching bass. And I acted surprised, but to be honest, looking back at it, I shouldn't have been, because those 2 locations had one thing in common, one constant piece of structure, and that is rocks. Now, I don't care whether you fish rocks, docks, wood, grass, sticks, whatever you fish, Bass Forecast can help you catch more fish and plan which days to go fishing. Bass Forecast is a mobile app that is built around an algorithm specifically catered just for catching bass, no other fish. It combines past, present, and future weather data along with fishing guides across the country that have verified this thing works to help you guys understand which fishing days are worth going out on, and as soon as you get on the water, which lures to throw, which locations to to go to and how the weather should affect the fish on that specific day. And the best part is, if you want to know how to fish a specific lure Bass Forecast recommends, I have made specific instructional videos in the app breaking down every single lure category, all on demand. By downloading the app linked below, you are helping support the TRF channel, as I am a co-owner in the company, and there's a Tackle Warehouse gift card incentive that basically makes the pro membership totally free for the whole year. So make sure to check out Bass Forecast link down below. Now let's get back to talking about the rocks that I was fishing on this kayak day. Now the first point I fished consisted of a steep retaining wall that had chunk rock at the base of it, making it different than every other retaining wall in the area. Most of them are super shallow. Most of them actually had no water at all on them. And so the fact that I saw this one and saw it had water and a small amount of chunk rock, it immediately caught my eye, and I caught one there. And the second point consisted of a flat mud area that had some chunk rock on it, specifically on the point, making it once again different than every other mud point in the area. And so what's the one constant, or I guess the two constants between these two spots? One was the presence of rocks, and two, the fact that there's just not many rocks at all, which makes it extremely different than the areas around. In bass fishing, inconsistencies are king. I'm gonna die on this hill that if you can fish an area where the bottom composition changes from one thing to the other, big rock to small rock, grass to no grass, mud to rock, those areas are gonna be incredibly worth your time fishing, just like you see here on the screen where the rock transitions back to mud. Now, scientifically, I don't exactly know why transition areas hold so much fish, specifically rock transitions. It could be because maybe the water clarity is slightly better, the water quality when a rock area as compared to mud, because the mud maybe has more silt in the water. But if you look at the water, it doesn't look that different, so that's probably not it. It could be that crawfish like to be around rocks for most of the year, besides when they burrow in the mud. But to be honest, crawfish like to be everywhere, and same with baitfish. Baitfish I know love to spawn around rocks, but I've seen plenty of baitfish all around muddy and kind of sandy, do-nothing banks, and so that's probably not it either. All I can say is that when you have an area with rocks and an area without rocks, I'm always first gonna fish the area that has rocks, and it worked out for me on this specific day. So I kept fishing this rocky point, and a few minutes later, this happened. Oh gosh, I have a fish. Goodness gracious, whoa. Whoa, hello, hello. Goodness, wow. Bigger, gosh, bigger than I'd expected. Let's go, baby. Oh, yes sir. 3.5, 4 pounder, dang. I think we found the pattern, folks. My mind was telling me just get off the water, go make a pond video, do some editing, whatever, but I wanted to try one more thing, and that was isolated rock, the only thing in the water, and obviously it's holding some bass. Thank you very much, Mr. Fall Bass. Yes! Something I mentioned while catching that fish is that the rock I was fishing on that point was the only rock in the water for the majority of the area. And that especially is rock worth fishing. When you have a whole bunch of structure, as you see in this drone shot here, specifically rocks, that when the water level is low, the water is not touching. But for whatever reason, certain areas of the rock do touch in the water. That rock, even if it's only in inches of water, will hold more fish. And I found that to be the case on this day. And as I said, it's still worth fishing the transitional areas on each side of the rock, especially in the fall and winter, as many of our lakes just don't have much structure still in the water. And I did that a few hundred yards away on the very next bank.
I've got one, yes sir. I thought so. It's a fish, just going for bass today, but caught something. A little drum. Come, they told me, pum-pum-pum-pum. Just as I had thought, something lives here. I hope bass do, but at least something alive was. There's one. What do we got? Largemouth. Hey, get around here. Anchor down. Wow, like I said, it's deeper. Got him. Little squeaker. Thank you, buddy. Proving once again, my theory is correct. Yes, sir, another one. Get in here, baby. Hey, 2 casts in a row. I'm smoking them, man. This is fun. There's one. Yes, sir. Oh, nice one. A nice one. Come on, baby. Gosh. Gotta land them on this side. Sorry, folks. Oh, yes, sir. Look at that. Whoa. They are absolutely loaded. This is legit. Kind of a little further than I had expected to get a bite on this little stretch because the rocks kind of end right here. But again, anywhere in the vicinity, as long as the drop off beyond the rocks is probably still the same, or bait fish are just present, you can still find fish in these areas. And that's like, what, 3 fish in a 20-yard stretch?
And as you can see there, my biggest bass of the day didn't even come on the best looking rock stretch there. It actually came on the transition from rock back to flat mud. I cannot stress the importance of that enough, all times of the year, but especially in the fall.
This here is when fall fishing goes right. When you find a little pattern and there's multiple areas of that pattern in one small area. So here in this pocket, there's 2 little points, you know, right next to each other. When you find that, fall fishing can be really fun.
So one more time, just for emphasis, it's worth fishing this area first over this area. And on this location, I'd fish here over here. And to me, this still applies everywhere, ponds and lakes, regardless of the season. If it's winter, bass sit on shallow rocks because they hold heat. If it's spring, bass make their nests on shallow rocks. If it's post-spawn, the bass want to sit near shallow rocks because that's where the bait fish spawn. If it's summer, bass sit on offshore rocks, especially when it mixes with grass or wood. And if it's the fall time of the year, bass oftentimes have nothing else to gravitate towards because oftentimes nothing else besides rock is still in the water up shallow. Rocks equals bass, and you can't convince me otherwise. But you know what else equals bass? The jerk bait that I was throwing. I love throwing a suspending hard jerk bait, and I will have my jerk bait masterclass teaching you everything you have to know about fishing that style of lure up here in the corner. Matter of fact, it's probably time for a redo on that video, but it's still a good one. It's clickable right there. And as always, I will have my Tackle Warehouse affiliate links with the entire jerk bait combo, rod, reel, line, bait, everything linked down in the video description. If you could please shop for tackle using those links, it would help my channel continue to grow. My name's Tyler. As always, it's a pleasure, and we'll see y'all next time right here on TRF.